Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Live with Virginia NORML. I'm J.M. Pedini, the Development Director for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws and the Executive Director of your favorite chapter, Virginia NORML. It's Friday, February 24th, 2023, and not only does that mean the General Assembly is almost over, but also that it's time for us to talk all things cannabis in the Commonwealth and answer your burning questions live. Happy Friday, Jennifer. Happy Friday, Sherry. Hey, Folly. Good to see you. Hello, Tom. What you doing here, buddy? All right. So, I've got a bill. I've got the house down there in the corner, so I can both talk to you, and watch votes at the same time. But hey, James. Hey, Andrea. Hey, other Tom. Good to see you. Good to see you, everyone. So, like I said, the General Assembly is almost over. And so today, they are only able to hear at this point bills which are in conference.
Clerk will close the vote.
Hold on one second. We got some video, some volume going there. 7814. So we are only hearing bills that are in conference right now, and the good news is all of the medical bills are already done. So let's do a quick recap on the bills that have succeeded, the bills that you all care about that have succeeded. All right, so we have the expungement legislation. Now, these are just technical cleanup bills, still important. We're going to move away from calling them expungement and start calling them record sealing, because that's really what we have here in Virginia. We don't actually have expungement, we have record sealing. And so Delegate Herring and Senator Surville's bills were companion legislation at the behest of the Virginia Crime Commission, and those bills both sailed through unanimously and are done, passed, and good to go. Now, I'm going to do all the weird ones first. We have, well, not that record sealing is weird, but, we also had a bill that, just of minor interest. Delegate Fowler had a bill, HB 1563, that will allow agricultural tax exemptions, but specifically precludes cannabis from any property that has to do with cultivating cannabis can't have these same tax deductions, which is kind of the opposite of the bills that would have deconformed Virginia tax code from federal tax code and allowed similar deductions, but we'll talk about those later. So Fowler's agriculture bill, even though it excludes cannabis, that tax reform bill succeeded. Then we have two consumer protection bills. We've got Leader Kilgore's HB 2294 and Senator Hanger's SB 903. These bills went to conference, and they both just succeeded today. Conference report being agreed to by the House and the Senate on each bill. These bills will require accurate labeling, amongst other things, for these currently unregulated hemp products that are proliferating across the Commonwealth. Now, let's get into the meat of this session when it comes to successes, because it's all medical bills. And wow, normally these medical bills are boring and no one cares. And they just, people say barely two words about them and they pass. But it was really difficult this session to do anything. Unfortunately, we were able to get these bills done because some of them are really important. We've got two bills that are companion legislation that are technical. They're purely technical. They just take the code for medical cannabis that's currently under Board of Pharmacy, where that code section lives, the Drug Control Act, and it takes that code and it just moves it over to the Cannabis Control Act, where it's gonna live. And there's legislation passed last year that makes this transition happen, but it didn't appropriately move the code. So we had these boring technical bills to do that, and they became really contentious, which is entirely unnecessary. But fortunately, we were able to pass these important transition bills, and it is HB 1598 by Delegate Robinson and SB 788 by Senator Favola. Those bills are good to go. Code's going to move over appropriately. Now we have the medical operations bill. This is the big bill. We have it every year for the medical program. It's just a bunch of like technical things that make the program work better. You know, legislation isn't a one and done thing. You have to come back every year and be like, well, this isn't working, so let's do this. Let's tweak this a little bit here. We do this every single year, and we always have things in there that we care about as well. Oh, house just adjourned. We have things in there that we care about as well, things that are specific to patients. And so that has happened in these operations bills year after year. This year is no different. These bills are not just for the operators, they are for patients as well. And those two bills succeeded. So that would be Senate Bill 1337 by Senator Donovan and HB 1846 by Delegate Head. Those bills are done, succeeded, huzzah. All right, now we have two medical bills that don't have companion legislation. It's my favorite kind of bill where there's just one version and you just move it along. You don't have to go back and forth and go to conference. We have Delegate Adams's bill that is for accurate labeling on medical, improved labeling. Let's not pretend like they're not accurate. They're very accurate. We require that. But this would improve the labeling on medical cannabis products, just make it a little bit easier for patients to find the information that they're looking for, both on the product itself and online. Now, some of the dispensaries, the medical cannabis dispensaries, are better at this than others. So depending on where you're shopping, you might think, wow, I really need this. And you might think this doesn't really matter to me. So, you know, it just kind of depends on from whom you are shopping. But that bill also has an important provision that would allow the registered practitioner to identify on the patient certification form if the patient has a registered agent. And this is really helpful for people who are in hospice. Otherwise, the registered agent has to be appointed by the patient. The registered agent has to submit their application to Board of Pharmacy, pay $25, and wait for the card to arrive in the mail before the patient can ever get that assistant accessing their medical cannabis. And you can imagine what a burden this is for particularly hospice patients. So this would simply allow the certifying practitioner to use their judgment as to whether or not they would like to identify for the patient on their form if they have a registered agent. Particularly helpful if that patient really needs that assistance. So Delegate Adams 2368, that bill is passed. And then this brings us to Senate Bill 1533 by Senator Deeds. Now we are missing a medical cannabis provider in the state. We only have 4 licensees, or 4 permits. We only have 4 permittees. We're supposed to have 5, but we only have 4. And what's been happening in this absence of one of the HSAs having a permit issued is really the provider out in Southwest has been like kind of picking up the slack and serving this really broad geographical area. Now, not only are they providing product to a large portion of the state, but they also had to move out of their original location where they were originally licensed. Casino is going in there, and so they kicked them out. The casino kicked them out, and they got kicked out to this other sort of temporary place, and they can't expand. And what we need is for these companies to be able to keep up with patient demand. Patients don't need to suffer because of kooky red tape and bureaucracy in a poorly constructed regulatory model. So this 1533 is narrowly tailored, and with the oversight of the Virginia Cannabis Control Authority will allow specifically the operator out in Southwest to have an additional cultivation facility in a much better location. So, boring stuff on the whole, but still super important. Hey, James and Roanoke. Hey, David. I hope you're still with us listening to the news. Happy Friday, Fred. Hey, Dan. Good afternoon to you. Hello, Marcy. Hello, friend. Hey, Ellie. Good to see you. Oh, Sherry. Oh, Sherry. Tell me about this rumor you heard. Sherry asked if there's any truth to the rumor that July 1 will bring reciprocity from Maryland to Virginia patients. I haven't heard that. Sherry, I haven't heard that, but I can check on it. Now, what I can tell you is Maryland is planning to begin adult use sales on July 1st. So that type of reciprocity just means you have to be an adult. Oh, why, thank you, Cassidy, for putting this. You know what? You know what, Sherry? Cassidy has the answer for you. I'm going to read it, but no, this is from Cassidy. Legislation is pending, Senate Bill 884 in Maryland, that would allow a visiting registered patient from another state to access medical cannabis while in Maryland. So there you go. Thank you, Sherry, for asking and Cassidy for answering. Correct, Dwayne. Hey, Dwayne, good to see you. Because the administration objected to it, no retail sales bills advanced out of the House of Delegates, specifically out of subcommittee. So let's be clear, it is not all Republicans opposed legalization of retail sales. In fact, there are Republicans that voted for the Senate bill to legalize retail sales. Senate Republicans voted for retail sales. House Republicans introduced legislation for retail sales. Two House bills were introduced by Republicans for retail sales. However, once these bills were before the House General Laws Subcommittee 5, which is the Cannabis Subcommittee, that subcommittee was given the direction from the administration not to advance these bills. Now, this is interesting and completely flies in the face of what Governor Youngkin has said on the record. The last time he was asked about this was by Ben Pavier at VPM, and his response to Ben was that it was the legislature's responsibility to send him a bill. And that's really hard to do when the committee is being told not to advance those bills. So, I think it's important that when we talk about retail sales, everyone understand the question is not, should Virginia legalize marijuana? That question was asked and answered in 2021. Virginians said yes. You're not putting the toothpaste back in the tube, the genie back in the bottle. None of that. Legalization is the law of the land here in Virginia. The only remaining question that is before the Virginia General Assembly, and this is the third time it has in fact been before the Virginia General Assembly, the only remaining question is, does the Commonwealth choose for another year, actively choose for another year, to continue ceding control of its marijuana market to unregulated illicit operators? That's it. That's the only question. It's not about a pot shop on every corner. It's not about legalizing marijuana. It's who controls the sale of cannabis in the Commonwealth. And when it comes to sales that are not medical, it is not the Commonwealth that controls those sales. So when it comes to public and consumer safety, you know that for the members of the Virginia General Assembly who voted in favor of legalizing and regulating retail sales, you know that public and consumer safety is an actual priority for those members. You know that in the House, the members who put forth those bills, it's an actual priority for them. And you know that for the members who voted against these bills, that it's not. You know that for the administration, it clearly is not. And it's absurd because Governor Youngkin purports to care about public and consumer safety so much so that he prioritized these unregulated hemp products. And right, these are separate issues. You can tackle that issue while simultaneously tackling the adult, the absence of the adult use market. Look, we don't have to figure out how to regulate cannabis in Virginia. We don't need to look at what other states have done. We don't need a report or a study. We don't need to investigate. We already know. We already regulate cannabis in Virginia. It's a known quantity. The only thing that's going to be different about adult use is the licensing structure. But the consumer safety standards, the public safety standards, those are all going to be the same. We're not going to have two separate regulatory models for the same product. Anyhow. Oh, hello, Michael. Michael's got some questions. Michael says, last year's budget went beyond budgetary subjects. It always does. And added some new criminal penalties. Do we foresee such shenanigans this year? Well, there's always room for that sort of stuff. But given the legislative landscape, I don't think that we are going to see that. I don't think so. I don't think that's necessary given the legislation that did succeed. But there's always room for nonsense in the legislative process. Folly, it does seem that Governor Youngkin wants to ignore the issue of adult use retail and the lack of regulatory control for that marketplace. That's the real thing there. It's not, maybe he doesn't know enough about it. Maybe he doesn't understand why ceding control to unregulated operators is not in the best interest of public or consumer safety. But for someone who purports to be as politically savvy as he does, he must understand how popular it is amongst voters on both sides of the aisle and how popular safety is with voters everywhere. But who knows? Fonz asks, do I think anyone will reintroduce adult use sales in conference? No. I can tell you that in conference on the Hanger and Kilgore bills, they tried to get some language in there specific to adult use, and there was a real desire by some Senate Democrats and Senate House Democrats as well to have language that would have allowed the Cannabis Control Authority to promulgate regulations for adult use retail, and then send them back to the GA in 24. They tried to get that in the conference report, but it just, there wasn't support from it from the other side of the aisle. So that's, in a conference report, you have to, you got to find peace in the valley. Hey, Drunken Yoda, just like to say your name. First of all, hi, Brian. Second, no, haven't heard that yet, but I'm sure it's coming anytime now. We'll see. All right, now there were far more bills. 11 bills succeeded. 15 bills were defeated, including two were withdrawn. There was Delegate Adams' bill was withdrawn, and I'm looking on here. Delegate Bourne had a bill that was withdrawn as well at the request of the patron. I mean, it's like you're like, oh, I don't want to do that one. Take it out. So of the bills that were defeated, all three adult use bills, Delegate Hodges, Delegate Weber, and Senator Evans' adult use retail bills were defeated in General Laws Subcommittee 5. Delegate Freitas had some weird monopoly bill that was originally about adult use and then became about hemp and got just real weird. That was left in Senate rehab. Senator McClellan had a very well-intended incubator bill. That bill was tabled. Delegate Leftwich had a consumer safety bill, but it was really unnecessary given Hanger and Kilgore had those bills. So his bill was just passed by in favor of advancing the other two. Senator Lewis had some wonky hemp bill. I don't think he necessarily knew what the bill would actually do, and it was passed by in the end. Delegate McGuire had a bill to criminalize Delta 8. That bill didn't even make it out of House Courts of Justice, so that's saying something. It means very bad bill. Delegate Adams had a medical expansion bill that she withdrew so that she could advance her other bill, her labeling bill. Delegate Les Adams had that terrible per se DUID bill that was killed in Senate Judiciary. Thanks, Senate Judiciary. Senator Eben had a medical expansion bill that was PBI'd in the House. And then Senator Lucas had two bills that were well-intended. One of them really well-intended, which is a resentencing bill to allow for resentencing or review for people who are still incarcerated for marijuana-related crimes. Of course, it succeeded in the Senate and then went over to die in House Court Subcommittee. Same thing with her bill that attempted to address parental rights when it comes to lawful use of cannabis. Now, we did provide some technical amendments to include medical cannabis code in the bill, because that is what we actually see. We are not getting calls every month from people who are having their children removed from their home by CPS. We are getting calls and emails multiple times a year from parents who are in custody litigation battles where the other parent is using the fact that they are a registered medical cannabis patient as grounds to prohibit visitation or custody. We see this regularly. We have seen it consistently since the program started. That is the real issue when it comes to cannabis and parental rights in Virginia. And the legislature failed to address it this year. They've failed to address it multiple times. We've had bills on this. We had bills on this when it was a Democratic-controlled legislature and they did nothing. So it's no surprise that the bill failed to report again this year. And then Delegate Campbell and Senator Eben had tax reform bills that would have allowed legal medical cannabis companies in Virginia to take basic tax deductions in Virginia by deconforming Virginia tax code from federal tax code. And those bills both died in the House. Shocking. I know. So there are two bills out there that relate to cannabis left. Delegate Wilt and Senator Obenshane's advertising bills. Those are in conference, and we'll see if those come up tomorrow. Hello, silent type in Colorado. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Carrie. Good to see you, friend. No forward movement on retail licenses this year, not for adult or medical. Hey, Skyline, that Freitas monopoly bill, I think, was a super fun talking point bill for Delegate Freitas. people love to rail against the medical cannabis program, including our legislators who stood it up in its current form. I find that particularly fascinating when people who voted for this limited licensure vertical integration model then complain about it out of the other side of their mouths, like they aren't the ones who made it and forced it on us. So I think his bill was originally targeted at that, the program that he helped stand up. And then it turned into something about hemp and prohibiting monopolies in hemp or something. But really, the way it was drafted, the real deal, right, what the bill was really there to do was to prohibit any sort of enforcement action against hemp products. So once DLS revealed what the bill would really do, then it was nixed. So it's not coming back. Not this session. Hey, William, the expungement bills passed. You're not sure what it means by technical cleanup. So that just means that the law, the code, is tweaked a little bit. It doesn't have any substantive changes. It just makes it more streamlined, or puts, a technical cleanup is just minor amendments to code that don't really change the overall substance of it. So it doesn't really change the overall substance of it, but it does clean it up and make it a little more functional and practical. Hey, John, good to see you. Whew, you're welcome, William. All right, that was a lot. I'm so glad we got through all of that. And let's talk about some of the news. Oh, wait, before we do that, listen, if you want to see where any of these bills ended up, you can track all of them on our website. We put all of the marijuana-related legislation on one page for you and explain what all of the actions on the bills mean and if they succeeded or failed. Thank you to Cassidy for dropping the link to that in the comments for you. Now, we have an action alert for all of our medical legislation. One action alert for all the medical bills, and it goes to Governor Youngkin. So please take a moment to send that action alert. I know Cassidy's going to drop that in the chat for you shortly. But we need to tell Governor Youngkin, we don't have any reason to believe that he's not going to sign the bill. And I'm going to check the action alert right now, make sure it's functional. There's no reason to believe that he's not going to sign the bill, but we do want to make sure that he is getting messages from his constituents saying, hey, we care about this bill. Let's just take a quick peek at it real quick. Select targets. It was the wrong targets. Okay, now it's perfect. Just had to make sure that was all good to go. So if you, Jeff Dean, if you take a moment now or when we're done, send this action alert, that would be super. Governor Youngkin needs to hear from you that you want him to sign all of these medical bills and not to mess around with them. Just sign them. We're all good with how they are. They will substantially improve the program for patients, and that's all that we care about. All right, now, I can tell you there was some news this week. Richmond Magazine did a piece. It's something when Richmond Magazine's writing about it, called An Uncertain Path, which is basically like, hey, what's going on with cannabis in Virginia now that you've rejected everything? House Republicans. We had another piece from Marijuana Moment that took a look at the final slaughter of the tax relief bills. And, whatever, I haven't even seen this one. The Marijuana Herald, whatever that is, That picked up on the poll that came out from Christopher Newport University survey a few weeks back that 60% of Virginia voters want marijuana retail outlets legalized. That's no surprise to any of you all, and it's no surprise to us. Yeah, so I expect to see some more news on this. I think Virginia Mercury is writing about the passage of the legislation today. I'm sure Marijuana Moment's going to write some more about it. I spoke to MJ Biz yesterday, so more news coming. Here we have it. All right, friends. Hey, who's got burning questions? While you've got questions, I'm going to tell you about what's coming up. And also, I'm going to say, hey, I should probably do this at the beginning of every show, but I'm really bad at it. Wherever you're watching, be sure to take a quick second to hit that like, follow, and subscribe button so you never miss when NORML goes live. We go live multiple times a week. And if you think this is fun, the other times might be fun too. Hey, Dan, you're welcome. Hello, pot calls the kettle bong. I love people's screen names. They're wildly entertaining. All right. Upcoming events. I'm going to do them in chronological order this time, except I don't know when Shamrock the Block is, Cassidy. March 11th. Oh, 3/11. How could we forget? Okay, so on March 11th, we will be at Shamrock the Block, which is a big street festival right here in Scott's Addition. We'll have our big green tent out there. We'll have tons of cool NORML merch. Stop by, see us, get high fives, tell us how much you enjoy our work, and buy stuff, you know, so we can keep doing it. I have a small selection of, and we have new stuff coming too, but I have a small selection of merch right in front of me for whatever reason. We will have these awesome strawberry lighters. We'll have these there. We'll have the chocolate lighters as well. We have little containers like this, super fun silicone containers. We've got burger. We've got some pumpkins left over from Halloween and some acorns left over from the fall. We have these ring holders as well. We also have some other silicone products and glass products as well that we're not going to violate our terms of use with Facebook right now. What else have we got over there? We've got storage containers as well. You know, safe storage is a big deal here in Virginia because of the way our code is written. If you need to travel with cannabis in your car for some reason, you want to make sure that you put it in a locking container and that you put it in the trunk of your vehicle. And if your vehicle doesn't have a trunk, then you want to put it behind your last row of passenger seating. Make sure you don't smell like weed. Make sure your locking container doesn't smell like weed, and never ever drive while impaired for any reason that's stupid and irresponsible. But you can get smart locking containers like this in our Facebook shop. And when you come see us at Shamrock the Block, that didn't work, at Shamrock the Block on March 11th here in Scott's Addition on Arthur Ashe Boulevard. Now, coming up in April is National Cannabis Festival. You can get tickets now, including VIP tickets, at nationalcannabisfestival.com. That is in DC. Now, we will not have a NORML table like we've traditionally had at NCF, but I will be there. And we are in the works to have something in a special pavilion at NCF. So stay tuned for more details on that. And then coming up in June, we have the Denver Legal Seminar, the NORML Denver Legal Seminar. This is the first legal seminar NORML has put together that will be focused specifically on cannabis business law. It's a great time to come out and connect with legal experts from across the country. And that's in Denver, June 7 through 9. You can get all the details on that at norml.org/Denver. You can get your tickets. There are discounted tickets available for non-lawyers. We have a fundraiser event at the Marijuana Mansion on that Friday evening, I believe. Yeah, so come out and see us at the NORML Denver Legal Seminar, June 7th through 9 this year in Denver, Colorado, just like the name says. And then in December, we'll be going to Key West for the NORML Key West Legal Seminar. You can find out details about that at norml.org/Key West, but that's a little ways off still. I mean, but look, one of our coworkers here from Gather is in Key West right now, and I'm very jealous. I'd like to be there. All right, friends, this has been delightful as ever. I hope that you have enjoyed this content and that we've kept you accurately informed throughout the legislative process. I know it is a lot to digest and keep track of, and that's what we are here to do for you. We'll do this again next Friday. We'll do another brief recap of what happened legislatively. And of course, we'll be answering all of your burning questions live, just like we do every Friday, unless I have to work. Hey, Charlie, good to see you, and you're welcome. And Dan, thank you. I'm really glad that you find this useful and insightful. All right, everyone. I know that we've had all 4 seasons in 1 week. So whatever this weekend's weather brings to you, I hope you have a great time. Get some relaxing in there as well. And hey, come back here next week and see us again on Friday at 4 p.m. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.